Well, there is a lot of history in the area's old theaters, and YSU instructor Art Byrd has taken it upon himself to look into that history. And Art Byrd joins us live here in the studio tonight.
3 WYTV, now in high definition.
Well, there is a lot of history in the area's old theaters, and YSU instructor Art Byrd has taken it upon himself to look into that history. And Art Byrd joins us live here in the studio tonight to talk about the history of Youngstown area theaters. Fascinating history, isn't it? A lot of them out there at one point.
There's a ton of them. Some we don't have anymore, and there's some that are still there, but they're different things now.
Like what?
Like the gym. There's one called the Daniels in Warren. Okay. And that is a gym now.
Oh, no kidding. At one point it was a movie theater.
Movie theater. And there was an interesting thing because not many people were sure, because there's a Robbins Theater. They weren't sure. They always never mentioned the Daniel. So through a little research, I found out which one was which. So.
Now, the very first movie theater, was it the Warner?
Basically, there were a lot around, but it was one of the ones that was, they're usually called palaces at that point. And so it was one of the ones that the Warner Brothers made because their brother had passed away, and it was $1.5 million. So they made it this big spectacle, and of course you can see that because now it's Powers Auditorium. So once you walk in there, you can see the renovations, but not too much slightly from what it was when it was the Warner Theater.
Now, most of them were in downtown areas, weren't they? The old-style theaters right in the downtown?
Yeah, they thought that's one of the things where people congregated. That's where they went.
That's why we put them in the malls nowadays, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And, of course, now they're really not in the malls anymore.
I guess they're adjacent to the malls or next to the malls. They're kind of in that area. Yeah. Yep. Well, we have some pictures to show you tonight that are dug up for us. Let's start with the first one that we have for you. And this is the old Paramount Theater. And you like this theater?
I like this theater. I went to it as a kid. It was first called the Liberty Theater. Then when studios started to buy theaters, they made it the Paramount Theater. And this closed in the early 70s. They're going to do something called the Paramount Project, where they're going to keep the facade of the building and make it like almost like an amphitheater, farmers market type deal.
All right, the next one, I believe, is the Newport Theater, and this is your favorite?
This is my favorite theater. I went to go see The Empire Strikes Back there, lots of other films, and it had a lot of things with its architecture, but it was a one-screen theater, and it stayed that way until it closed.
All right, we got one more, and Warren, of course, had its share of theaters, and this is the Robbins Theater.
This is the Robbins Theater. It wasn't being torn down. The building is still there. The marquee is gone, and one of the things that's interesting is that Warren has two theaters that are right almost a block away from each other, the other one being the Daniel. And this one right here, the Robbins, they tried to restore it, and it didn't work out.
Now, I know next week, what is it, next Wednesday, am I correct? You're going to be at next Thursday at the Warren branch of the Warren Trumbull Library, and you're going to talk about the history of movie theaters in Trumbull County, correct?
Talk about that. We're going to talk about it a little bit because I found that there were a lot of theaters that were around, and then ones that came from like the Eastwood Mall and of course Movie World. And they've all switched around. It's very interesting. They started as a one-screen theater and go to a two-screen, and then move on to larger screens.
Well, if you're interested in it, we just showed you the graphic up there. It'll be next Thursday, 6:30, at the Warren branch of the Warren Trumbuble County Library, and it's the history of Trumbull County theaters. All right, very interesting. Thanks. Great research. And you going to write a book on this one?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. Never say never.
I know. All right, thanks very much. We'll be back with more of 33 News at 5:30 right after the break.